The Devil's Tower is America's first national monument and was created in 1906 to protect the stunning rock formation. With stone columns clawing skywards from the rolling prairie of northeastern Wyoming, this jaw-dropping geological wonder is something you have to see yourself to believe. We spent a half day exploring Devil's Tower and hiking a few of the park's trails, and here's all the information. Let's get this out of the way first. Devil's Tower is in a remote part of Wyoming, and it's not one of those places you just happen to find yourself. It's somewhere I've wanted to go for a long time, so we spent the night in Gillette, Wyoming, and then we headed in the next day. There really is nothing like it around, so as you approach, you'll start seeing it from far away. It's about an hour from Gillette, and as we arrived, we were greeted by buffalo. Pops and buffalo and the tower. I'm guessing this may be a common occurrence to see them here, but I was still blown away, and it's one of my favorite pictures I took on the early portion of our road trip. Driving on, you'll pass the Devil's Tower trading post, and then you'll have to pay your fee to enter the park. It costs $25 if you don't have a pass, and it takes 10 minutes to drive from here up to the Devil's Tower. The prairie dogs are an easy highlight at Devil's Tower National Monument, and it says that there are over 600 residents in the 40-acre prairie dog town. It's hilarious to just pull over on the side of the road and watch them interacting with each other, running, and even eating. Online it says that prairie dogs only really like areas that have been grazed, so one of the best ways to control where the population moves is just not to mow the grass. After hanging out with the prairie dogs for a while, we started the 10-mile drive up to the trailhead and saw some deer on our way up. We got here right when they opened, as the parking lot at the top is small and we wanted to make sure we could find a spot.
We made it to the Devil's Tower. Let's go explore.
The Devil's Tower area is relatively small, and it's not one of those parks that you need a lot of time for unless you're planning on climbing it or you really want to take your time.
There are two main trails in the park, but this is the one that most people do, and that's the one that we're going to do today.
We set out on the Tower Trail, which is about 1.25 miles round trip with limited elevation change. The signs at the start talk about how the tower was important to American Indians and that they have many different stories that they've passed down for generations about the tower being used to help people escape giant bears, and about how the lines in the rock are the bear's claws from trying to climb to the top. If you can't tell from this video, I highly recommend you get an early start, as we were basically the only people on the trail the entire time, and it was amazing to be able to have an area like this all to ourselves.
You guys, I am so excited. This is one of those places I've wanted to see for a long time, and look how cool it is.
Just to note that there's lots of signs about how you can't go onto the boulder field unless you have a climbing permit, so be sure to get one if you're wanting to do that.
I think this video is going to be a lot of the same thing over and over again, just looking up at the epic rock formation as we make our way around it.
One of the nice things about the trail is all the information plaques along the way where you can learn more about the geology and the history of the tower.
We got here about 7 a.m. and it's so peaceful and quiet. There's basically no people. You can just hear the birds. You can hear the prairie dogs down there. It's a really nice time to be here.
We did the trail counterclockwise, and I would recommend doing that as it's a gradual incline and you get amazing views of the tower as you're walking around. You'll see that towards the end of the trail we're basically in the trees and we lose a lot of the views.
This path is paved, but the grade is a little bit tough, so I'm not sure how accessible it is.
One of the most interesting plaques talks about how two local farmers created a ladder that they used to reach the top in the late 1800s, and they were the first people that were noted to have climbed it.
It says the historic ladder is viewable through the viewing tube, but unfortunately this is the viewing tube right now, so there's a ladder up there somewhere.
My dad and I tried for a while to find the ladder with the zoom lens on my camera and the zooms on our phones, but we never found it. As you make your way around to the backside of the tower, keep a lookout for the window, which is one of the tower's most notable features. This 300-foot alcove shows where some of the pieces cracked off, and it creates what looks somewhat like a window.
We've made it to the halfway point. It took us about 30 minutes. This is a really nice trail. It's forested, kind of blocks the rock formation, but it's nice because whenever you get these great views of it out of the trees, and then the rest of the time you're kind of walking in this pretty forest. Check it out, they have a picture of Puffs right here.
That was when I was in my younger days here. You can see me there, yeah.
As you finish the last quarter of the trail, it's basically in the trees most of the time, so you only get small glimpses of the Devil's Tower. Every time you do, it's cool to see it from this angle as it looks a little bit more stark, but again, the views are much better on the other side as it's a lot clearer. I will say that one of the best views is right towards the end of the trail as you get this clear path that leads you directly to the Devil's Tower. Without any trees, the views here are incredible and you can see birds flying around the tower and even see the way the sun lights it up in the early morning light. This is the last views as we're almost back to where the loop heads to the parking lot.
This is gorgeous. The mountain is gorgeous. The hike around it is gorgeous. Just a perfect kind of an outing, a perfect place to stop, and it changes with the sun. It's really beautiful.
This is the trail we did. We went all the way around and back. Such an incredible spot. Definitely come not in the summer if you can, so there isn't a lot of people. We're gonna check out the visitor center and then we're gonna head on. As we made it back to the parking lot, we got to see a sun flare as the sun was peeking up over the top of the mountain. The visitor center wasn't open when we arrived, so we were excited to see it when we got back from the hike. It's pretty small, but it has some great information on the Native American stories about the bear and how the mountain was formed, some stuff about how beautiful it is to see this area at night with all the stars, information about how to actually climb the rock itself. Here's some information on climbing. That's the normal route, and this is the technique for climbing in the crack. And then there's the ladder we were trying to find. And then a few things about the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which made this park even more popular than it was before. That's it for the Devil's Tower. A really cool spot. I'm so excited I finally got to check it off. Now we're heading on to South Dakota. We'll see you on the next one.